Welcome back to The Patient Man. I am starting something a little bit newer today. This is a bit of a new little scene for me. I want to try something a little bit different. In saying that, I'm still going to be doing my other videos, but I've had a couple of weeks off for own personal reasons. It's been quite a hard time for me. I will discuss that in a later video. But for today's purposes, everybody, I've got a cool subject, and I thought I'd do a little presentation, like a little year 12er, something that I have serious identity with, and I can talk about on strongly because I know that I suffered with this heavily. I still do sometimes, and I have spoken about it in other videos, but not in depth. So, in saying that, everybody, I'm just making sure my flowers up in the road. Do you like my little scene set? And by the way, too, welcome everyone to, this is little Chriso. So this was me when I was a little fella. I keep that there all the time because it's really important to me to see where I come from. And today, introducing masturbation and your behaviours. Now, the reason why I've put myself there, my little Chriso, is this is where my behaviour started. This here, this emotional dysregulation and this the habit that I picked up was happening around those ages. So I thought it was pretty convenient to put that in and pretty relevant. So understanding your cues and understanding your behaviours and your control when it comes around masturbation. So let's go. So today I'm just going to go through this. I know it's pretty bland, but I'm going to highlight as I go through it and talk about it. Now, it's going to be a bit of a long-winded one, but I really, really want to talk about it because I feel like I could probably help a few people with this one. So, we've got cues. Everything starts with a cue, all right? A cue is a simple cue, as in we've got different cues here. So, I'm going to use red here because this is the one we're not overly positive about. So, emotional cues are stress, boredom, loneliness, feeling of emptiness, is usually, they're the three that I've picked that normally are the ones that will cue that issue. Environmental cues. So these are pretty cool ones. So being alone at home, my personal biggest one is when I know I'm alone, when I know I've got time by myself. That is my cue, my instant cue. If I'm driving home from work and I know my wife's not home, before I even think about making a conscious decision not to do it, I've already started the action. The cue's already started for me to think of that behaviour. Bedroom alone, quite simple as well, and bathroom, most men use that for their private time. Habit cues, phone in bed, nighttime routines, and scrolling socials. Definitely those big habits, especially scrolling socials, can cause big issues when it comes down to habitual cues. Psychological cues, these are also really, really big. I find these ones quite fascinating. So fatigue for me is one. I find fatigue when I'm tired. I have much less resilience when it comes to impulse control. So that can take off 100 miles an hour. Restlessness and random spikes in arousal. So for me to identify, and the way I understand this is random spikes in arousal, I find for me personally, let's say caffeine, over consuming caffeine or whatever it might be, something that can throw it up really quickly, fright or an argument or whatever it might be. Cognitive cues. So pretty interesting what our brain can do when it comes to imagining. We're very imaginative creatures. So fantasy and sexual thoughts is definitely a really, really big one. That also ties back to scrolling on the socials. When you're watching on the socials and you see a lot of things you probably shouldn't have to see, that definitely kicks off that fantasy and that sexual thoughts. Avoiding tasks and wanting distractions. I think most men want to avoid a task or a distraction. So I find them really, really... So these are my five sort of the ones I've come up with of cues that will normally kick off a man to make a decision to do this. Now, we've got nervous system drop. So, God, I'm hopeless with a cursor, hey? Instant relief, stress, tension, emotional pressure drops fast through primary before orgasm. So you've initiated the cues come up and you've initiated the cue, you've started it. So instantly your nervous system starts to drop because it knows that stage 3 has been activated. If you don't activate up here and you stop it, you do get more distressed unless you've got another outlet, and we'll go into that later. So this is a primary reward start. This is the start of that, oh, look what I'm doing. It's naughty, right? So then you got your protein. I see your protein. Come on, Chris. Your dopamine hit. So quick spike, which like is the initiation of that. So the initiation from here to there is that quick smack of dopamine that gets you into that reward drive. So you'll start going forwards, and that'll give you a quick change to move forwards, and it makes you move forwards. It's very hard to control it. Once you get into this area here and you're not regulated, you will absolutely go through into you will finish. It's very hard to control. Escaping and numbing. So most people know, the shame around masturbation and how we struggle with sort of breaking it. So the discomfort and the ruminating thoughts sometimes can get so overwhelming that you just might go through with it because you're sick of it. You want to take that pressure valve off. So that's the reward part of it. Now, the routine part of it, for me, I felt like this was interesting. So automatic masturbation, so you got the porn scroll equals arousal equals release equals regulation tool. Once your body works, once your nervous system and your cognitive understanding understands what this is and realizes that if it gets stressed out, if it's anything goes wrong, we can release, and it's a regulation tool. It will embed that deeply, very deeply. So when you do go up again, it'll go, oh, let's do this because it's a regulation tool. That'll take us on to the next part. So this is a really, really interesting one. And my psychologist showed me this, and I think most people would know, but I'm going to do a bit of drawing on it so we can understand sort of how I interpret this scale. So I've put in here the emotional baseline. So this is our window of tolerance. This is when you're just cream, nothing will frustrate you, nothing, you're quite well engaged with everything, like it says here. Where most people believe they are, but I don't think you are. You'd be very surprised. So, and then you've got hyperarousal and you've got hypoarousal. So you've got low arousal and high arousal, hyper and hypo. Hyper, psycho, hypo, slow. So I believe with masturbation, in my perspective, is that, let's say we go through a window of, our window of tolerance is this, right? A normal window of tolerance would be, a healthy regulation would be during, let's say from here to there is a 24-hour period. We wake up in the morning, we might be a little bit low here because our body's just waking up, and we'll come up and we might go into here. We go to the gym and we come back down, right? As we come back down, we might sit into this nice little window of tolerance, and someone pisses us off at work. We come back down into the tolerance, and then let's say we start resting before bed. So that is a window of tolerance, and that is a healthy, I would say a healthy, I see a window of tolerance as an amazing measurement to see. We are always going to be in a hyperarousal and also a hypoarousal sometimes. A healthy nervous system will be able to go in and regulate itself consistently and have a nice, even spike. Now, on the contrary, this is what I believe a dysregulated emotional system is, right? So that's our baseline there. We start off in the morning up here somewhere. So our tolerance is already horribly low. We don't have much, our cup is very full. Now we'll come in here and we'll go bang, gym. Hit the gym hard, come back down, right? Just about to get down, work pisses us off. Have an emotion. Then, this is the one that really interesting. Let's say, who knows what, something's got you, you got a bill or a house, dues, bills or rent's due, whatever it might be. That's up there. It becomes so overwhelming for you that the only way you can hit the release valve is drive it down through masturbation, and you push yourself down into here because your body's over it. And then you end up here. So having a start, so your baseline starts here. If you're starting above your baseline at the start of the day, you've got a real good chance, and you should be able to identify this, that you are going to sit too high in your hyperarousal, and this is where you make impulse mistakes, and this is where you get that. So this is what you should do, using mindful breath work, but overreactive and unclear thoughts is when you get frustrated. So you can see the difference, right? You start nice and slow in your hypo, and you come up and you can stay in that window of tolerance, and it's a really beautiful, peaceful day, and anyone can do anything wrong to you, and you'll still be able to stay within a regulated area. But when you're starting up high and you get caught up in there, your body's it's a pressure valve, it needs a release valve. Now, most men, our release valve, because we're not attuned to our bodies and we don't know how to self-regulate, comes through masturbation. Now, that drives you down into hypo. Now, after you actually ejaculate, your body actually releases hormones, prolactin, which shuts off your whole sex. That's why that feeling of after you ejaculate, you're like, feels like someone's just hit you with a ton of Valium. That's that feeling. So that's what you're dragging yourself down into here because your body's so heightened, you can't actually get past it. So that's a release valve. So let's go past here. Right. So this is how I would fix it. This is not how I would fix it, but this is a better way of being able to do it. So I'll change my cursor to green because, I like green. So now we're going to go through the same 5 ones. Emotional cues. So instead of doing the other things that we were saying before, let's do breath work, movement breaks, and label the feeling. Sometimes when you identify the fact you want to do something like masturbate, it actually, by identifying it out loud, actually can change the emotion. So that's a tick. That's a good way for an emotional cue. Environmental cues, right? This is a really, really good one because this is quite, it's quite apparent. So changing location, I'll put money on it that most of the time you guys masturbate self-pleasure, whatever you want to call it. It'll be in a specific area, specific time, and it's always quite regular when you do it. So changing the location, change the shift of the environment that you're around and remove access points. Like remove if you're laying on the couch or if you like to use a toilet or whatever it is. Try to deviate yourself away from those areas. Habits and cues. So try to get rid of, this is the biggest one. We all know that. I don't have to go over it 100 times. Phones are so easy and so addictive to be able to see anything you want to see, whether it's porn, whether it's whatever, TikTok. That's a really, really big one. Replacing your rituals. Find another ritual. If you know if you have a coffee and then 10 minutes later you're going to have a wank because you're too heightened, then change your ritual. Have a tea, have something a bit different, or whenever you're most stressed, whenever you're going to initiate that self-pleasure, try to find out why and then move it behind you. Change that reason, change the ritual. And obviously try to redirect. That's not as easy as it sounds. Redirection is hard because usually you get caught in the loop. Physiological cues. So a really good one I find these, and I do these as well, and it really, really makes a big difference. Normally, if we're grasping towards, that's a bit gross, but grasping towards self-pleasure, masturbation, we're chasing that good feeling. We want to drop the sympathetic nervous system and put it into parasympathetic. So things like cold water immersion, I know Big Wim Hof's all about this and everyone's about it now and most people do it, which is really good. That'll help you with that. Box breathing, so slowing your breathing down because sympathetic, you'll start mouth breathing and you get quite short and shallow breaths. So being able to box breathe, you 4 in, 4 out, 4 holds, whatever you want to do. And if you're quite heightened, then tense and release is really, really cool. So my psychologist taught me this one. And if you are feeling really overwhelmed and you can catch yourself before you get too elevated, squeezing all the muscles in your body as tight as you can and then relaxing and let your body completely drop and then do it again. Do the same thing, do a couple of rounds and you watch how quickly your body will completely shake all that negative energy out and all that anxious energy. Cognitive cues. Redirect your thoughts. Think about something else. Try to move away from those thoughts, move away from the patterns and the habits because these are all going to pop up at the same time. You've got to be able to witness all of these at once to be able to change this. So redirect your thought, pattern break. There it is there. And reduce fantasy access. TikToks, YouTube. Anyone where you can gain access to something that's going to stimulate you and put you in a position to make a horrible decision. Right. Now, for that cue, our reward for that, if we can do these, if we can adjust all of our 5 cues and we can do it correctly, this is what we get out of it. We get a smoother regulation and transition, so better impulse control. When you're better regulated, your impulse and your decision making is so much clearer. It's just straight. No, I'm not going to do it. When you're tired and dysregulated, anyone can convince you to do anything because you're just low. You're in that real low position. So Change your cues, change your behaviour, change the control you have in your life. That is pretty much as good as it gets, because at the end of the day, guys, cues and behaviours, this age here, little Chriso, the behaviours and cues that you learn, they're the ones that actually come through and into your adult life. And you don't realise that they're regulation tools, all right? So the new routine. We've got a new routine, everyone. Yoo-hoo. So we've got a trigger. A trigger will hit. You will find something. And then instead of actioning the old action, we're going to get a new action, which we'll find, which could be any of these, right? You get the same relief, but you also have no compulsion. So you have control over what you're doing. You have more control over what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, our body's chasing this. It's chasing a relief or a release of some sort. If a new action comes in, then we're losing that compulsion because we're redoing it in a different way, in a healthier way. That is it's much better for our regulation of our system, and it's a better way to be able to work through it. So that's a big tip, body. I'm going to keep the green cursor. You know what? No, I'm going to mix it up. Let's go orange. All right. So why this actually matters, honestly, why this actually matters. I know I'm sitting here telling you about it, but this is why it matters is you can actually regain control again of your life, which is really big, because when you do fall into loops of self-pleasure and it becomes a habit and it's a bit of a compulsion, you tend to feel very, very out of control. You can't stop it. You want to try to stop it, but you don't know how to. So that is one of the things that matters most, is you actually gain your ability to make choices for yourself that actually benefit you, not negatively impact you. Your behaviour stops owning you and you own it. Now, I know it sounds cliche, but when you can actually adhere to that, your actual life change, you start to believe yourself. You trust in the fact that you can actually behave yourself. And I know we're 30s, 40s, 50s, or whoever watches how old you are, but sometimes you can't, most of the time you can't behave yourself, and this is why we have all sorts of issues. Clean that neurochemistry. Now, I don't know, I'll put this one in, but I'll put it, so it's less dopamine spikes and crashes, more stable moods, your brain stops chasing instant relief. For this here, I'll give you a quick explanation. So, if I'm dysregulated heavily, which doesn't happen as much anymore, but it can, I will self-pleasure, and then I'll be down, and then I'll go have a double shot coffee, and I'll pick myself back up, and then I'll feel horrible again and come down. Your spikes become huge. So that's what I was saying back here, this here, so you go up and down, up too rigid, too much. So then, you have a blank, you come down here to masturbation, then you have a coffee, you come back up, so you're completely dysregulated. So that is why when you do this, you actually, you let your systems actually work themselves correctly, and you're not flogging them flat out. So that's really important. I actually really like this one. Better emotional regulation. You stop flipping between stressed, numb, stressed. That's what I was just saying about the coffee. Coffee, masturbate. Masturbate. You can't control yourself. You just end up going through all these peaks and troughs. And that is literally, you want to keep yourself, the aim of the game, ladies and gentlemen, is keeping your emotions and your regulations in that window of tolerance. Window of tolerance. That is us, with our baseline, all right? We want to stay there as much as we can. Stronger identity. Every time you choose a new routine, you build it. I'm a man who can regulate my thing. I said that already. Is pretty much you start to believe your own shit. Sometimes when you are in automation, you have your body doing something and your mind doing something, and you're in the background going, why am I still doing this? I can't control it. When you gain that back, you gain this back, and it is so much more pleasurable to know that you have some reasonable control of your habits and your behaviours. It's nice. So, I've got a little bit of just a quick little setup, and we have spoken about it just then briefly, but look at I think I've got an issue with using these doodles. I like it. Right, Patience Man 3-step action plan. So, very, very, it sounds easy, but if you can do this, I guarantee you will actually change. So, identify your triggers. This is the biggest one all men struggle with because we actually don't know where it starts. Oh, there we go. We don't know where it starts. The problem is, here we go. Notice the exact moment it starts. Stress, boredom, phone, bed, blah, blah. You will always, like I said before, mine is when no one's home or if I'm really, really elevated and I can't bring myself down. They're my trick. Find out what your triggers are, men. Find out what your triggers are. Do you feel lonely? Do you not feel loved? Do you feel like it's most of the time, I would say 90 to 98% of the time, we blame our partners. Now, men, I know this is true and don't try to tell me any different. We blame our partners for not getting enough sex. That is an absolute projection at its finest. We don't masturbate because we want to. Most men do not masturbate because they're so horny and this and that. They masturbate because they are not. Oh my God. Oh my God. Give me a second, everyone. We masturbate because we don't know how to regulate our emotions properly. It's not because we are overly sexual. We use that, and this is what comes down to being a better partner, because if you can understand this part, then you're not going to have those little little flings with your partner that are emotionless and just completely irregular regulation intimacy only, because your partner knows the difference between you're trying to de-stress and you're trying to show intimacy. There's a huge difference in emotions. Step 2, everybody, interrupt the pattern. Stand up, move, breathe, break for 10 seconds, break that loop. Now, we spoke about the loop before. You will, if you can see this, you should be able to see this. There will be a very clear and concise pattern that you follow when you do certain behaviours. This is one. If you can understand where and why, before that kicks in, get up, change your understanding, move around, do something different. Go to the veggie garden, go get a drink of water, whatever. Try to break that compulsion and that thought of it. And for the final, choose the new routine. So you can replace it with anything you want, ideally something better, ideally, like not drinking or anything like that. Try to do something that really actually looks after your nervous system and supports your mental health instead of doing something that's not going to help it. So, things like here, I've just put in a little for instance. So you walk, breath work, cold water and grounding. Same release, different behaviour. It's really important, men, to be able to find the way and the pattern that you work, so you, instead of going downwards in life, you can come back up. And you can actually work your way backwards and find out why you do these things. Find your new routines. Find something that you really find will make you feel as good. Go to the gym. Do whatever it is. Meditate. Meditation is one of these things that meditation gets your baseline here back down and gets you back into this window of tolerance. That's a really, really good one. Breath work, same thing. Gives you a quick spike, hyperarousal, and gets you back down. These things are really healthy stimulants for the body. They're natural reactants to the body, and that is what we want to be focusing on. This is the window of tolerance. Make sure you stick in it. Right. That is all I've got today for this one. Now, I want to know if you guys are interested in this sort of stuff, because this is really important for us men to take responsibility of ourselves and take responsibility of our marriages and our partnerships, because if we can work all this out, not only does it help out with our own habits and bad habits, it also helps with being a better husband, being a better father, better tolerance. Here we go. I'll do it one more time. You want to be in here for that family members. You want to be here for the loved ones. You don't want your cup too full all the time, because you are not going to be yourself. You are going to be in fight and flight, and you are not going to be helping anyone. So make sure you take this responsibility to give this a go. Give it a go, and then let me know in the comments if it works, because it does work. I've done it, and a lot of people have done it, and it definitely works. But it will take time. You will make mistakes. You will slip up. Do not shame yourself and guilt yourself into it. Focus and be the man that I know you can be. Let's go. Love yous all. Patient man out.